Hello, people of YouTube. It's Deepak here, and welcome to the DCS news for the 21st of June 2025. I hope you all enjoyed that, my most recent video all about the A10C2 tank killer. Today we took off, we flew around for a little bit, we rejoined, and we landed. Really, really simple to do in this aircraft, but still, it's nice to have the actual procedure kind of laid out like that, so you know exactly what to do. Next week, we're going to take a look at navigation, and I'm also planning to do a bonus video soon all about the CDU, because it's kind of core to the navigational functionalities of the aircraft. It can do quite a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, welcome to the stream, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Colin Kelly, Pink Floyd, Mark S, Byron Farrow, Tech Gaming 45. It's not even finished yet. What's not finished yet? The video finished. I'm pretty sure the video finished. The thing is, of course, if you started it after the premiere began, you might not quite be at the end yet, so that's always possible. Welcome to the stream, JP Gibbons, Golden Gnu. Welcome. So yeah, we've got 2 newsletters to go over, and some exciting new things have dropped in the form of an update and an aircraft and some campaigns and even a map. But before we get too far into that, let's bring on board the one and only John Bluer. Woo!
Hello. How you doing, man?
Hello. Welcome back, sir. Welcome back. I hope you're
Yeah.
doing well. I hope you're
Yeah.
ready. I hope your body and mind are honed and ready.
My body is ready for DCS.
Yes.
Yeah. To quote an ancient meme, the whole "my body is ready."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A year older, as
Oh.
you let everyone know. I obviously it was my birthday, my 36th birthday. So, it was nice. We had a good laugh, a bunch of mates, and went for a few beers, and went to one of those basically like a modern. I don't know what modern is, but it's like a arcade. And you pay for like the night rather than the individual machines. So it was all the old classics, House of the Dead and Time Crisis and all that kind of stuff. It was a really good laugh. It was really cool. And then got
Great
very
shot.
drunk. Yeah, great shot. Yeah, there was one that was amazing. I was hoping it was there. They didn't have it. There used to be this wicked game called Lethal Enforcers.
Yeah.
And it was like the first one was basically Lethal Weapon, and then the second one was like a Western version. And like you'd get graded at the end. I just remember it going "Posse" at the end of it. Sheriff Posse.
Some of these, they had amazing voice acting.
Yeah, they were amazing. And it's like almost like, I think a lot of them were made in like Japan, weren't they? And then
Yes.
they would just have these like overdone American accents that literally just sounded like something from like the QVC channel or something. It was like shopping channel stuff. It's hilarious. So yeah,
It was
it was good.
stuff.
It was a good laugh. Yeah.
Yep. Mark S flew the new map for 5 minutes and uninstalled. Runs like crap on my old machine. Well, of course, Marianas, although they have greatly improved it since its initial launch, but Marianas was always a little bit taxing with all the trees.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, John is wearing tourist dad camo.
I can blend in a Weatherspoons against the carpet.
Yes. Very good. Byron Farrow, what was the oldest meme to be called a meme? For me, I think it was recipe of some kind. I don't know. Like, what's the badger is like that comes to mind for me, but I don't know. There could be stuff earlier than that.
Bloody hell, Weeble stuff.
Weeble stuff.
That was it. It brings a few memories back as well.
Magical Trevor.
Oh, good old Magical Trevor. Yeah. Oh god, yeah. That was like the days of Flash, I guess, wasn't it? With Flash animation. Yeah,
that was all in Flash, and actually, the only thing I can really remember before that is Joe Cartoon. I don't know if any of that.
Oh, Joe Cartoon. Yeah. Was it a gerbil in a microwave? Wasn't it?
That was one of his early ones, and the Spanish Fly and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Or Mexican Fly. Amazing. I can't remember.
Yeah. One of these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, we're off topic. Let's people will ask us if this is really the DCS news again, if we keep talking about nonsense.
Yeah. I thought this was the news.
Oh, yeah. What are you idiots talking about? Okay, fair enough. So we start with last week's newsletter from the 13th of June, because unfortunately we were both away. But we had in the previous one DCS Kola 1 year of development, so a year of crafting the battlefield. Now, actually, I've not jumped onto Kola recently. I need to do that because I know there's been a lot of work done on it. But I flew it at launch, and I restricted myself to the high detail area because, as usual, quite a lot of people jumped onto the map. It was the same with Sinai. I remember a lot of people getting Sinai and being like, "Oh, it's rubbish. The detail's terrible." And then I would have to point out to them, "Mate, you're not actually on the map."
Yeah.
Like maybe you should judge it based on the bit they've actually done. So yeah, same deal with Kola. For a long time, there was kind of a low detail area, and that has been shrinking as the high detail stuff has been added. So I need to revisit this. It looks like it's probably very, very tasty at this point. I clicked on the thing. This their screenshots thing always confuses me. It's always hard to find what you're actually looking for.
Always you click on it and it just sends you to the generic screenshot, doesn't it, folder, and then you have to track it down.
You're gonna track down what you're actually looking for. So I believe these are the screenshots that they've included most recently, and yeah, it looks bloody good. I need to reinstall it and have a go. As always, storage is at a premium, so I need to.
This is always the issue. Yeah,
I need to make some space. Actually, what I need to do is I need to do one of those little kind of sim links, basically, to make it work nicely. Anyway, 1 year on, the DCS Kola map continues to expand as a dynamic and strategically significant theatre within DCS. Developed by Orbex, a leading scenery developer, this map spans over 1.35 million square kilometers of Arctic and subarctic terrain, covering northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia's Murmansk and Karelia regions. Well, they say Russia's Karelia region, but haha, well, you know. Anyway. And yeah, for those of you in America, 1.35 million square kilometers. How many football fields is that? I don't exactly know. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah. It's at least three American toddlers, at least.
Yes, indeed. Since release, the map has received substantial improvements, adding new airfields, infrastructure, visual improvements, and performance enhancements that have shaped it into the detailed and responsive environment it is today. Built for large-scale operations, the map blends complex infrastructure with fjords, tundra, forests, and mountainous zones, layered with historic and modern-day military relevance. With more than 20 functional airfields, detailed ports, and key industrial zones already in place, Kola supports a wide variety of tactical scenarios. Yes. Have you been playing this one at all, John?
I have a bit, yeah. So I think I saw him in chat earlier, Indie Navy. He has a server with some other guys called Panther Den. And they've got a very good. It's not a paid advertisement, by the way. This is just me just saying it's a very good server. And they've got a bunch of.
Say this.
Yeah, I was not paid to say this. They've actually got a really good server, and they've got a bunch of things like high digit SAMs as well, which is really cool. And they've got this thing called Skynet, which basically so the SAMs won't just sit there with it on. They'll actually switch off their radars and switch them back on again and simulate them. Kind of.
I've used both of these add-ons, and they're both excellent.
And it's scary dairy. It's very scary, and they've got layered defenses and stuff. So, but it's I've flown a little bit on it, and I've also been watching some streams of people flying on that server and also on Kola. And I tell you what really surprised me actually is the detail at ground level is I would say Germany Cold War has probably brought that to that's the new high bar for me. That's the new they've done exceptional, but it's not far off. For the Kola map as well. So I think
although it was done under the name of Razbam, of course, Orbex did also do the what was it they were calling it again? The
South Atlantic
map. Yes.
Yeah.
I always want to call it the Falklands map, but it's not.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's is the thing, isn't it? Falklands, Las Malvinas, or whatever they call it. Exactly. But yeah, it's very well done, and the details really, really good. As always, I think the tricky thing for a lot of people is there's a kind of chicken and egg situation a little bit with like servers and people playing on servers. So you're only going to want to run a server, especially if it costs money, if people are going to play on it, but people are only going to buy that map if the servers are running. It's that kind of whole thing. So there's a little bit of that. And then the other option, and we've talked about this sort of almost to death, but is the idea of like hard drive space,
Oh, yeah.
and all that kind of thing. I think I think a lot of people do have like I know a lot of people personally. I'm just talking anecdotally. There's a lot of people do have like multiple hard drives, but the problem is that obviously at the moment with the way DCS is you have to have your DCS install has to be on the same as your maps, and you know very quickly you start running out of space.
Yeah.
So if they can, I know I said ad nauseum we're getting on this, but if they can come up with some sort of solution which is easy and straightforward for people to install maps in different directories. I know people every time I say this, there's always comments. Someone go, "Well, you can. It's really simple." And it's like, yeah, sure, but 95% of people are not going to bother with that.
Yeah.
Most of them are just going to want to have a simple, straightforward solution. If they can put that into, say, like the launcher or just a utility to do that, I think a lot of people are going to be installing maps a lot more, playing on them more.
Yes.
It's just a win-win, really. I think it's a real win.
Personally, I can only ever have one or two of them installed at a time, and I know how to make it work across multiple drives, but I've never sat down and spent that time because I don't have the spare time to sit down and mess around with that. It takes enough time to plug in all my gear and get ready to do some flight simming.
Exactly.
If I then have to spend another half an hour to an hour just figuring out my storage needs, that's just not something I have time to do. So I tend to just have one or two maps installed at a time and then cycle them. That's how I do it.
And to be honest, I'm always careful saying this because it's one of those things where sometimes the simplest things are actually not that simple. Oh, it's really simple, just do this, and someone goes no. But the vibe I do get is it's not like that to implement that kind of solution for DCS is crazy. Like, oh my god, we wouldn't even know how to do this. I feel like that's something they could probably figure out without ridiculous.
They're clever people.
Yeah.
Domnoms HD is complimenting you.
It's good old Dom. I didn't see him in there. Hello, Dom.
Yep. Welcome to the stream. Interesting story. Thelma Viaduct, after 1 year away, plugged all my USB controllers in, about 8 of them now getting a red exclamation on the throttle axis and can't be used. Can't see any conflicts. Any idea to fix?
I had that a while back with the Tomcat. And if I remember rightly, what I did was I uninstalled the Tomcat, reinstalled it, and then I did either a slow repair or a fast repair, and it went away. But it would occasionally it comes out. That's at least the Tomcat. I don't know what the situation is, what aircraft is, but maybe a bunch of them. But there is a weird thing. I have seen that before, where it's like it's not a double bind, but it's just like a weird.
I think it's when the module has updated between the last time you used it and now, and the bindings are no longer valid. Because sometimes the definitions of the bindings in a module will change with an update. I've had it in the past, and all I ever ended up doing was clicking on the one that has the warning. I clear the binding, and then I set it again. And that's a bunch of work, and it's annoying, but it works. There probably is a smarter way of dealing with it, but I just clear them and start again.
Yeah.
Byron Farrow. So Byron Farrow had this problem and ended up editing Lua files.
Oh, there you go.
You can do stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I have a drive dedicated to just DCS. So do I, and it's not big enough.
That's what I've got. I've got a drive for DCS, and it's still not big enough.
Literally, I labeled the drive DCS, and inside that drive is one folder called DCS, and there's nothing else on it, and it's still not big enough. But I just need to buy bigger drives, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Anyone else? Hey, Fair FM, welcome to the stream. Oh my. Frantic Stone, member for 32 months. Well done, sir. Well done. That's amazing. Thank you very much for your support. Anyway, continuing. End of early access. They've set a date for the Kola map, 22nd of July. The Kola map will exit early access on 22nd of July 2025. This marks the formal end of the initial launch phase, but not the end of development. Orbex remains committed to ongoing improvements with new content and technical updates already planned. So what are they saying? They're going to add content. They're going to update the map as technical innovations occur. And they've learned lots of things, etc., etc. So what have we got so far? 1.35 million kilometers of land and sea, 20 plus airfields with surrounding infrastructure and navigation, custom ports, radar sites, urban centers, and military facilities. Free and payware missions available via Orbex and ED stores. They've made significant VRAM and performance optimizations. And new content that we're getting in the June 2025 release, which is in fact the update that we now have, and we'll talk about in just a moment. But they were adding Kilpiavar. Okay, this is impossible. Lustari, Koshkayaver, Kalivela, Pods, and Afrikananda. Bloody hell. I'm guessing these are what country code is that? XL. I'm not familiar with these country codes.
I have no idea, but I'm letting you pronounce them and get them terribly wrong.
Yeah.
That's your job.
I think those are the ICAO codes. XL is
Yeah.
not a standard code.
Yeah.
No, it's not an ICAO. Oh, anyway, we'll let somebody
Yeah.
tell us. Based on the names, I'm going to assume it's Finland, and then at least one or two of these are Russia. So yeah, it's places that I can't pronounce. And yeah, coming in the next 3 to 6 months, airfields and surrounding infrastructure. We get a number of additional airfields. The ones beginning ES I know are Sweden, and the ones beginning EN are going to be Norway. These are civilian airfields, and there's one for Finland. Enhanced ground textures for low-level flight, and continued VRAM and rendering performance updates. And why does Kola matter? The Kola region has long served as a critical military frontier, home to Russia's Northern Fleet and dense Cold War era infrastructure, now bordering NATO-aligned airspace. Its geographic and strategic role continues to evolve, making it a compelling setting for both historical and modern scenarios. So what's coming next? Drive what's next, sorry. Tell Orbex what you think they should work on next by leaving your comments and voting on others here. So there's a little link that you can click on and make suggestions.
So there's something something they just said there is something I've mentioned before, and something I think Eagle Dynamics should be doing with their marketing. So they said why Kola matters. So what would be really cool for a lot of people, I think, is especially now we've got all these different maps, and a lot of them have a lot of for obvious reasons is why they've been picked. You know, whether it's from Syria to Sinai to what do you call it, Kola, and even the whole new Cold War Germany. It's obvious to some people, like Cold War Germany. Obviously, that's obvious. The whole folder gap and Cold War gone hot. But what would be really interesting is that if they had some newsletters or a sectional newsletter where they talk about the some historical stuff about what happened there. So if just to give people some background of what the map is, like what this area is, some of the things that happened there, both from a 20,000 feet kind of perspective, and in even if it's small individual battles or individual things, so that people and say like, oh, in this city here in 1973 there was a a big battle, and there was a Mirage 3s were fighting MiG-21s, and that kind of stuff would be really cool, because it would give people kind of context as to why these maps are what they are. And we all know there's been combat scenarios or things that happen there, but just to give that additional context would be a really cool way of just informing the play base and just reminding people of like what's been going on, because I think it's easy to forget this stuff, and I think it would just kind of just inspire a little bit of imagination. It might make some people who create missions, some of the people who put it in the user files or even paid stuff, might inspire them.
That was
It might
actually my
inspire
first
some things
thought. I was like, this is basically providing like seeds of ideas that people might have for missions and campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it will help people make more effective use of these maps and assets.
And you can tie these things in with things like sales. So you could say like, oh, the Sinai map's on sale. Here's some cool stuff that happened there.
Yeah.
And if it happens to also be, or maybe you scheme it, you could say, oh, the MiG-29, the MiG-21 is on sale. Currently it's 30% off, and
Yeah.
also this map is on sale. And then you talk about that map and that aircraft and why they're kind of involved with each other. And it I don't know, it just creates a little bit more of a narrative. Because the problem I think that DCS has occasionally is it's a little bit sandboxy.
Mm.
And so give people that an understanding of like how they can bed in what they're doing and when they're flying around. I just think that'd be pretty cool. And I think if I'm honest with you, I think that's a little bit of a marketing or when I say marketing, just even engagement, community engagement thing, little trick that's maybe being missed.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be cool.
Well, one thing perhaps not to do would be to have sales based on, like the anniversary of real wars.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
might be a little bit not so cool.
So yeah, so the way you'd frame it would be more like this. We currently this, I don't know, say Orbex decide they're going to have a sale on, Sinai or whatever, whoever's done it, or Ugra or something, and they say, oh, this map is on sale. This jet was used in these battles. Maybe not in the anniversary of these things, but just to say, look, here's some context as to what was going on there. And this is why it's an interesting map to fly on and things like that. It's just kind of informing people.
Yeah,
I think don't do it on anniversaries of battles. Don't. That's not a good idea.
That's probably not very cool. That's not very thoughtful. Indy Navy saying all of those airfields that I mispronounced are in Russia. So there you go. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure as far as like airport codes, XL is not a real code, so that, or at least it's not one I'm familiar with. I know that UL is actually the kind of standard civilian one for Russia. So yeah, I wonder if these are in Karelia. Interesting. Anyway, moving on. Fair FM. I think the release of the dynamic campaign could contribute to that historical view. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping back to the newsletter, we have the ASM-N-2 Bat. And I guess this kind of feeds into your suggestion because this is a real world thing that was used. I'll leave it an exercise for the viewers to read through this. But basically in the newsletter here, ED give us the full history of America's first radar-guided bomb. And it's kind of cool. I believe they intended it for use against shipping, and it contained a 1,000-pound general-purpose bomb. And it was the end of a series of developments that the US created for these kinds of autonomous weapons. Because I'm trying to remember what it was. There were versions that used semi-active radar. And what was it? Same guidance there from using the earlier abandoned Project Pigeon.
There was one called Moth, which was a passive radar. So that was like basically an early harm. It was called the Moth, and I don't know how far it got along, but that was interesting. I like the name Moth because the idea of moth attracted to the flame, so to speak. But I think it was designed to take out, obviously you didn't have SAM sites back then, but you had anti-aircraft spotting radars and stuff for flak. So I think the idea was it would zone in on those.
Yeah, so this is a really cool development. Do you know if this is a weapon that can actually be carried by the F4U? I'm not actually entirely clear on that. It can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's a bit of a laugh. And then we do cool. Corsairs over Marianas in 1944. We've got this little note at the bottom as well. So, yeah. And that I think,
a little bit of that. What they've done there, they've got a couple paragraphs, but to actually kind of frame some of these things regularly, because we occasionally, and as you know, we'll occasionally get like a newsletter be a little bit sort of a bit scant when it, they can't always give us loads of information. So I'd almost say to them, have a little bit of a backlog of some really interesting things, of some historical images and stuff like that, and then you can kind of, when it gets a bit quiet, you can kind of post about that, just to kind of pad these newsletters out, because they don't get me wrong, they're very interesting and cool, but yeah. And just like they said there, like you said, they talked about the Bat bomb there. They've talked about what it's like, a little bit. It almost sounds like I should be reading that paragraph there in Nick Gray's voice. June 1944, dawn slides across the Pacific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that feeds quite nicely into the next newsletter, because what we got in the newsletter that just came out yesterday, and also a DCS update, was, well, the following. Let's take a little look at this. We get a fantastic launch video, as always, from Eagle Dynamics, and it's the F4U-1D Corsair. Which, as always, I'm not really into World War II aircraft, but this does look fantastically well modelled, and this is Magnitude 3, of course. I've said it a few times now, actually. I'm way more excited about the Essex class than I am about the Corsair, but this is clearly a really, really nicely modelled aircraft. And both the cockpit and the exterior detail looks fantastic in this video.
Absolutely exceptional. Look, I actually think this is a good direction to go for ED if they're going to go more into World War II, because they're not now competing directly with like things like IL-2. That's always the tricky thing they've got when you've got like, Western Front sort of stuff, or Normandy and the European theatre. The Pacific theatre is relatively, at least in recent years, relatively untouched. So they could do some really interesting stuff, especially with all these different assets. And I mean, it would be nice to say. I heard rumors at one point, again, this is scuttlebutt. I heard rumors someone was maybe working on a Zero, but then I don't know. It could be like one of those things where someone posts a screenshot and they say they're working on something. But that's what they could do with getting a Zero. Obviously, we've got the Hellcat coming eventually, and I think they've mentioned that they're going to do assets of things like Dauntlesses and obviously AI Japanese aircraft and stuff. But yeah, to get all this, I think this is this if they're going to do World War II, I think this is a step in the right direction, and it really allows Eagle Dynamics to really carve out their own niche.
And I'm right in saying this is our first carrier-based World War II aircraft.
Yes, yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
And to me, that's going to be very, very interesting, because the challenge of operating these types of aircraft from a carrier is quite unique, and something we've not had in the sim to date. Looking forward to that. That's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, these things land very slow in big conspiracy, in a big scheme of things. I think they land at like 90, 80, 90 knots, almost stall speed. Also, because of the way that they land, they're they've got a rear tricycle. They're kind of landing looking up, so you can't see Jack as you're kind of coming in and trying to kind of plop these things. And also, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage, but when they land, they're not like the modern aircrafts where they kind of go across half the deck. They kind of just stop. They just literally like get tangled up and stop almost, or literally almost on where they are. So I think the other thing, if I remember rightly, about the Corsair was that engine and that prop had so much torque that if you just flatline it, or whatever you want to call it, redline it immediately, it has the potentially to just dip over because of the torque from the engine coming in. It just creates this adverse sort of pitch. And so, they have to be really careful about like the power settings and everything like that as they're not only landing but taking off. So it's quite a difficult aircraft, I think, to master from what I know.
But based on what you're saying there, I wound it back to the bit where it's landing on the carrier. So let's have a quick look there. And as you say, it basically just stops.
Yeah.
Interesting. That must be really challenging to actually try and land like that.
And this was basically like the pioneer, really, wasn't it? I mean, obviously there was stuff they were doing maybe in the 20s and 30s and stuff, but like this was when they were really kind of, it wasn't like now where they've got, all sorts of, systems in place, whether physical or, kind of, what's the word? Abstract systems. You've got, back then it was just get the plane on the deck, and a lot of the time you see them and they'll clip a wing, or they'll catch the prop or whatever. And probably back then they were just like, we're happy just to be back. The fact we managed to like survive, that's one thing. But
because it was common prior to this. I don't exactly know when the switchover was, but prior to this you had seaplanes, and they would land on the water. They would take off from the carrier, but then they would land on the water next to the carrier and be craned back on board. So that's what people did prior to this. I don't know at what point people started landing on the deck, but it seems like a kind of quite the maneuver at the time. Byron Farrow says British pioneered the Corsair on carriers. The Americans didn't do it until 1944.
There you
go. Exciting. So yes, the F4U-1D Corsair. Fly in early access now. The early access Corsair features a highly detailed and realistic cockpit and external model that are rendered entirely with PBR textures. Flight modelling simulates the aircraft's unique characteristics that made it a deadly opponent to Japanese forces in 1944, and quite a challenge to operate from an aircraft carrier. The Corsair's powerful engine and massive prop torque provides exceptional speed and climb that lent towards its slashing attack tactics against slower and less capable aircraft. Along with the Corsair release, the Essex-class aircraft carrier, Japanese coastal guns, and ground vehicles will be available for free as part of the core update. Other assets are being created, such as the F6F Hellcat and many United States and Imperial Japanese air, ground, and naval units. Please see this forum post, I guess. For this scenario, we're creating an extensive and accurate set of units that match the time and location. This will allow you to recreate the Battle of the Mariana Islands and the Battle of the Philippine Seas. The DCS F4U-1D Corsair is available now for only $47.99 during early access phase. Please note that once the module is released, the price will increase to $59.99 of your United States dollars. So there you go. Chat, let us know if you've grabbed it already and what your impressions are. I don't have it, and I don't intend to get it, but I can see that it looks like an amazing module. But yeah, I already have too many aircraft, and World War II is not my focus.
Yeah, it's not to comment on the validity or the quality of it. Yeah, I'm much the same. Like World War II stuff is it's not because I don't like World War II stuff. I'm fascinated by World War II stuff in general. I've just played so much World War II sims over the years. I'm kind of like, it's like when you hear "Smells Like Teen Spirit" over and over again by Nirvana. I'm like, I never want to hear it ever again. So yeah, it's kind of like that. But I mean, I've been watching some streamers flying it, and I've watched some videos and stuff, and it looks like a fantastic module. Very, very minor bugs, I think, from what I've seen. And then the only other thing I've noticed, which is actually kind of interesting, is the cockpit's a little dark. And I think, do you remember the F1, the Mirage F1, when that first came out?
The Mirage F1 had the same problem. Yes.
Yeah, and I immediately was like, oh, I bet they're going to probably next sort of patch, they'll probably be able to lighten it up a little bit. So yeah, but other than that, I think most of the people who've been flying it, it seems like it's all right. It's a really, really well released module.
Well, we've got some feedback here. Indie Navy, I have it and love it. Byron Farrow, pricey, I feel. Tea Kettle Barbecue, yep, I have it. Only jumped in briefly, but I do like it. Tech Gaming 45, I grabbed it, even though I'm not a big fan of props. Pink Floyd, still debating getting it. At least with Steam, you can return it if you don't like it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, indeed. So, moving on, of course, in order to get a new module, we had to have a DCS update. So this week's update is headlined by the free DCS Marianas World War II map and the long-awaited DCS F4U-1D Corsair. It's worth noting that this is now the third map that ED have given us for free. So that's kind of cool. And when you add to that the fact that you also get the training version of the P-51, and you get, is it two versions? Yeah, two versions of the Su-25.
Yeah, we've got the T at the moment, and then they're giving us an A. They haven't. It's not clear if that's going to be full fidelity or Flaming Cliffs level, is it?
I'm pretty sure that's Flaming Cliffs level, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Maybe they haven't decided yet, but like, I remember reading it and it seemed very much like it was Flaming Cliffs style.
Yeah, it's also very possible that they might release it Flaming Cliffs free and then down the line do a full fidelity. Does that make sense? As they kind of makes sense from a business sense to, if you're going to update all the graphics and do all that kind of stuff, maybe they're trying to test the waters, see how popular it is, and go from there. I wouldn't know.
Would be cool. You know, it is an aircraft that's still used in certain variations and all over the world.
Yeah.
Morzo, I spent long nights as a kid playing Combat Flight Pacific Theater. Yeah, I actually played that too. It was very, very good. JP Gibbons, the mod includes two versions of the Corsair. It includes the British clipped wing Corsair Mark II. Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually a really interesting detail.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really nice that they're giving us different versions.
Mm.
So yes, yeah, we got those stuff. The update has also squashed several stability and performance bugs, improved AI behavior, overhauled several missile flight models, and pushed a healthy list of quality of life fixes to the quick action generator, the mission editor, and voice chat. Yeah, I saw that actually. The quick action generator, which we only just recently got, has already been revised a couple of times. So they're pushing out quick fixes and improvements to that,
Mm.
which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the free map of the Marianas Islands that includes Guam, Saipan, Tinian, Rota, and Pagan, based on period maps and photos of the islands in the summer of 1944. They are characterized by hastily bulldozed runways, cane fields, volcanic ridges, and villages under Imperial Japanese control. DCS Core got updates. We've got texture streaming now uses less RAM and disk I/O. The mission editor templates and resource manager copy functions are now working correctly. World War II ground units received proper radar returns. SAM logic prioritizes targets more sensibly. Buk and Kub missiles received improved aerodynamics, while the R-27 series of air-to-air missiles now deliver more accurate velocities. The quick mission generator received several improvements, such as fixing the era and country mismatches, restoring missing aircraft, and adjusting altitude and airspeeds. Yeah, the Harrier was missing from the quick mission generator. They've added the Harrier in, so that's nice to see. Voice chat mode selection and mid-transmission slot switch crashes have also been fixed. So yeah, we saw some updates to the Eagle Dynamics modules, some little bits and bobs of fixes to the Hornet, the Viper, and actually the Chinook got a lot of stuff in this update, which is really, really nice to see. And I also, what I like to see, we'd actually jump to the changelog itself here. I like that for each of these, they've actually told us what's coming next, which is really, really cool. And excitingly, the Hornet is getting terrain avoidance mode. That's under active development and testing. And they're expecting to release that in summer 2025, which I guess could be one of the next updates that we get. Note that multi-sensor integration of surveillance-only tracks that can be set as the lock and shoot or the DT2, like the next to shoot, is in testing and is planned for the following update. So basically, to decode this, what I believe this means is that you're actually able to set as your lock and shoot target a target that is not currently painted by your radar, either bugged or locked. So this, I guess, would allow you to fire an AMRAM at a data link target, is how I read this.
Yeah. If we're reading this right, that's massive. That's going to change a lot of things. Immediately the first thing I went to about that was things like when you have competitive, some of these like, is it TACT and things like that?
Yes.
Where they've got like a what do you call it, a AWACS in the background and stuff. And yeah, I've definitely watched people streaming and those where they're like, for some reason the radar can't get a lock. For some reason something an AWACS can see something that you can't.
Yeah.
Being able to just yeet even if it's a bit of a slap shot AMRAM towards something that's pretty huge. So that's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what's they call it again when you fire an AMRAM without lock?
Mad Dog?
Mad Dog, that's right. Yeah. So of course we already had the ability to Mad Dog AMRAMs, but their range is very short in that mode. So this makes them far more useful. So that's kind of exciting.
Just looking through here as well at the other bits and pieces. So looks like a lot of, like you said, a lot of data transfer cartridge.
Yes.
The other thing that's really interesting as we get down from where you are is the stuff to do with the targeting pod there for the F-16.
Yes. So this is an important one. We were expecting to get the sniper in this patch. Unfortunately, it's not there. And what they say, although our hopes and intentions were to release this new targeting pod for the Viper by the end of Q2, it requires a bit more time in testing to ensure a quality release that will include new features like multi-target tracking, picture-in-picture that combine the infrared and TV cameras, extended,
that's cool.
Extended range functions, and more. This targeting pod is planned for release in summer 2025.
Mm,
I'd heard the multi-target, sorry, not multi-target. I'd heard the picture-in-picture mentioned numerous times, but I didn't really know what that meant. Well, obviously I know what
mm,
picture-in-picture is, but yeah,
mm,
now calling out the fact that you could actually have the CCD and infrared images on screen at the same time, that
mm.
seems like a really, really interesting feature. So
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Well, one of the things that's interesting, if I remember rightly, is the sniper pod as well can it can talk via data link and um, send and receive video.
Hmm.
And I think that was the one. Obviously, you got the L2 mum in the Kiowa, and I think it uses the same protocol. That would be a really cool functionality to have, being able to kind of uplink or downlink video.
Yeah.
That would be very cool. Also, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if ED say no, this is not planned for this version. But I've definitely seen A10Cs with sniper pods. So that would be interesting to see if that would ever make its way over to the A10C. So
Who
yeah,
knows? Although usually they're kind of freezing their modules in a particular kind of
yeah,
time scale.
yeah.
So I think the version of the A10 we have right now
Mm,
didn't have this.
no,
But
yeah,
then who knows? Who knows? You could get
yeah,
something funky in the future.
yeah,
And when
absolutely.
it comes to the Apache, features that are in development for the Apache is the FCR terrain profile mode and
Hmm.
all new George as CPG commands to allow much
Mm,
more extensive and realistic operation. Both of these are planned for release in summer.
mm. This is huge. So the terrain profile mode is a cool little feature. So we were talking about this before we came on stream. So
Hmm.
from what I've read up, because I'm a bit of a nerd with this sort of stuff, so I've read the I can't remember what block it is, but it's a D model Apache flight manual. Don't worry, nothing War Thundery. It's all stuff that's out in the public. What do you call it? Public eye.
Is that your doorbell ringing?
Yeah, is that my doorbell? Is that please, please? Yeah, if you suddenly get me dragged out, you'll know why. But basically, what's kind of cool about the terrain profile mode? So you get a bunch of information that's provided to you on the page as normal, bit like the other is it GTM mode and RMAP mode and stuff.
Mhm.
So it gives you contour lines and it gives you data. I think it's color coded and I think it's contour lines to tell you, if something's at your level, above or below, and all that kind of stuff. But if I remember rightly, you actually get symbology in the IHADs. So that's your HMD. So you'll get contour lines that are mapped out using the FCR, which is a really really cool feature. And then the second thing you'll get is, if I remember rightly, again, I'm happy to quote it wrong here. I'm pretty sure so you got altitude holds. Do you know you got the trim hat and you've got the different
Yeah,
directions?
you've got these different hold modes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost sure of it. I would need to read this up. So if I'm wrong, please tell me, chat. I'm absolutely fine to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when you've got that as your FCR as your site select, and you've got that mode running, and then you engage one of those hold modes, I'm pretty sure uh, it will fly a terrain profile mode.
Hmm.
So basically, it's basically like what you've got on the say the F-15, where you got the terrain following radar kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's something along those lines. I need to brush up, but it's a really cool little feature. The Apache.
Hmm.
I think it's the last FCR mode, isn't it? If I remember rightly, to come to it.
I believe so,
Um,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we've got the last big thing that I'm wanting is, or two last things is the jammer and
Hmm.
the RF. Is it the RFI,
The,
which is
the,
really cool
the
as well.
radio frequency interferometer.
That's it. Yeah, and that thing augments the APR 39, whatever it's called. So that's problem is it's all a bit they all get a bit cagey, and I understand why
Yeah, yeah.
about exactly what it does. The vibe I get from it, functionality wise, is that it augments your RWR, so it gives you a lot more information about uh, tracks, and it presents it on the TSD, from what I know.
Well,
Um,
my guess based on what I've
mm,
read is that
mm,
it kind of acts a little bit like the jammer pod that the Jeff has, where
yeah.
it can actually, it can do a little bit of analysis of the signal and give you a location of the emitter.
Mm, Yes. Yeah.
geographically. So rather than usually you're just getting like a bearing and a priority with traditional RWRs, it's actually going to plot an estimated position of that emitter.
Exactly. Almost a bit like the HAD pod as well in the F-16. A bit like that kind of functionality. Exactly. So it just gives you.
I'm gonna hand over to you, John, for just a moment to talk a bit more about this.
That's all right, no worries. But yeah, it just gives you the ability to to kind of get a bit more of a bearing on an air threat. And from what I can gather, if you've got your flow right, you'll be able to kind of slap shot a Hellfire or a Lima or something based upon that information. So it's cool. It's the last few things, and also I think the jammer, as far as I know, in the Apache is just like a pretty standard self-protect jammer. So I think it's just to kind of make it that little bit harder for something like an SA-15 or a 19 to track you. If you're getting tracked.
Spam you.
Yeah, and I think it works on a very much like a self-protect mode. So I think it only I think it's got the usual standby self-protect and then constantly emit kind of thing.
Yes.
Like a lot of jammers do. Yeah, like pretty standard sort of self-protect jammer modes as there is. So that would be cool as well. Just probably allow you to kind of little bit of survivability, especially if you're being tracked by some sort of SA, 15 or 11 or something like that. So yeah, it's cool. I can't imagine the Apache is a gazillion miles away from kind of coming out of early access, which is cool because the way I see it is that obviously if there's always patches and little bugs and features to fix, but the moment that's dealt with, that's then those development team working on something else. So that's always how I see it. I just want a Cobra. I want that super Cobra. Give me that whiskey Cobra.
Cobra when?
Cobra.
Give Cobra.
Oh, dude, that would just be such a great helicopter. I don't think people realize how great that thing's going to be when we get it. It's going to be a laugh. I don't want the latest one. Everyone's like, I want the Viper. I'm like, no, it's pretty much an Apache. No, I want a whiskey Cobra. I want it. I want to have to work for stuff. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give me something a little bit harder to operate.
Yeah. And then we go on to the CH-47. So you were saying about there's been some cool updates to both the MFD and the CDU.
Yes, indeed. So actually, this one I'm quite excited about because, like, me, I'm all about the avionics. And the Chinook, the version of the Chinook that we have here is quite avionics heavy. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on here, and they're really fleshing it out with this update. So big things, big ticket items here. They've implemented the HSD hover display mode, which is very, very cool. That's going to help you kind of maintain a position over the ground while in hover. That's very, very nice. We've got a huge update to the CDU with lots of new pages being implemented here, including the ability to look up navigational data, which is kind of nice. It's a feature that airliner CDUs always have, to be able to hit like nearest airfields or look up particular radio navigational aids or waypoint names and things like that. So really nice to see all of that in. And then, just an absolute ton of new CDU pages here. I'm not even going to read all of these out because there are so many of them. So that's pretty damn cool. Along with some fixies, which is nice.
Yeah.
They've also added keyboard input options for the MFDs and the CDUs. So I guess the nice thing here is that if you had some hardware, or if you even just wanted to have a separate USB numpad or something like that, you could map it up and very quickly interact with the CDU, which is nice.
That's really cool. Especially, is it WinWing? One of them's got they've got CDUs, haven't they? They're now selling as peripherals.
Yeah.
So that's
I
really
don't
cool.
know if they're DCS compatible, but yeah, WinWing has a really nice CDU. They have versions for like Boeing and Airbus. I think you can even make it look like an Embraer one or something. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Yogi, thank you very much indeed for the contribution. That's extremely kind. Thank you, and welcome to the stream.
Yeah. I suppose also, one thing I'd just say about the CDU is that whenever they do something like this, you tend to think that at the very least they're kind of tooling up, if not getting experience in doing these things. And whilst you can't, it's not like you can just port this CDU to another aircraft, but it's always something, isn't it, where you can go, oh, cool, that's if we get another aircraft with CDU, they're going to have that technology already created, to kind of make all these kinds of pages and do all these sorts of things. So, yeah.
Well, of course, as I'm going to be covering soon, the A10 already had a CDU, although its CDU is quite unique. Whereas the CDU in the Chinook is much closer to something like you would have in, well, for example, in the Hercules or even in an airliner.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done a CDU before.
Hmm.
Pink Floyd, still really hard to see your airspeed in the Chinook. Too small.
Oh, the MFDs, yeah, the data on those MFDs is tiny, but that's how big they are. I think in the real life, I think they are literally those MFDs on the not the MFDs themselves, but the information is pretty diddy.
Yeah. Channel Right, have you ever considered a haptic feedback seat or a chair pad? Things like the butt kicker were all the rage many moons ago, but I've never tried one. I don't really know much about it. I know they are compatible with DCS, and I've heard people describing that it can be kind of nice. You get a little, a feeling of your touchdown. You can feel the RPM of your engine and things like that. They probably give a little kick as well when you launch weapons. But no, I've really never considered it. It's not. Yeah, like for me, the VR is the big immersive thing. Having rumbly buttocks is that can happen on a Sunday after a night out anyway. So
as soon as that came out of your lips, I was like, okay, where's this going?
We've all been there. We've all been there. You know how it is.
I suppose it's like anything, isn't it? So I see a lot of these peripherals as they're layers of that stack up of like believability, aren't they? So I think a really quick win for a lot of people is obviously VR. That's like a really quick. I say quick. You can buy a VR headset, and within half an hour, you can be set up and ready to go. You have to obviously change some of your settings and stuff, but you're pretty ready to go.
Yeah.
Then you've got some of the stuff like you've got force feedback sticks. You've got like the Mosers and things like that. And some of those even actually will not only will they kind of fight you and you'll get stuff like that, but you can actually get a bit like the butt kickers. You can get some haptic feedback for when you like land, or even like you said, little vibrations or movements in the cams to represent vibrations and stuff. If you fire a missile, or like you said, you land. I think that's quite cool. I mean, you got the really extreme level of commitment where you got like dudes like Warthog Project and stuff, and you're like, dude, that's just incredible.
Those are cool, though.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're really, really cool. And then I've also seen stuff to do with this sort of augmented reality as well, isn't there? So there's some of these people where they've got you've got a headset and you've actually got the physical cockpit, but then obviously it all maps up against the VR and kind of produces a bit of both. So yes. I think it stacks up. I think it's one of those things. I don't know if you feel the same, where you're like, if it was a reasonable price, if it's just for example, say you pay like $250, $200 for like a joystick, but then there's like another $50 for some sort of additional like level of feedback and stuff like that. It's the kind of thing you might go, yeah, I'll give it a go. But yeah, like when you look at some of the more expensive things, some of the big butt kickers, that's a commitment, isn't it? Because you've got to have a whole rig at that point. I don't know if you're the same, but like I've just got my office chair. If I had some sort of like complete DCS Ultimate Commander chair, and my girlfriend comes in, I'll just get dumped like immediately. It's bad enough she has to hear the RWR going off in 5 minutes. I think if she was to see me moving around on a chair going, yes, Fox free and all that kind of stuff, I think she'd just look at me and go,
is this why you fly helicopters?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. Only Napalm, welcome to the stream. And Domnoms HD is saying, I have the next level racing HF8 Pro and absolutely love it. So a recommendation there for that. Very nice, very nice. So yeah, moving on. Yeah, like I said, a huge update for the Chinook. We get some stuff for the Hind. We've got a couple of things for the Mi-8. The Kiowa Warrior gets updates, which is I was surprised to see that because I assumed they were in disarray, but apparently they're still pushing out updates, which is good to see. Very happy with this.
So I popped into their Discord and to see what was going on, and one of their community manager called Apex kind of explained it very clearly, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So obviously there's only like a couple fixes in there. There's about 6 or 7 fixes. So, but when he explained what the approach is, it's actually very reasonable. So what he said, it's the idea of crawl, then walk, then run. So
Yeah.
they've got a bunch. It sounds like they've at least got 1 to 2 minimum, if not more, new developers who are trying to get their head around, the probably not to quote on the quality of the work, but the spaghetti code of a DCS module,
Mm.
and so they don't want to go into it and start pulling things apart and breaking it. So I think what they're trying to do is just trying to, again, initial small victories, just to try and fix things, and then apparently they've stated that as time goes on, they're going to try and tackle the more complicated things, because there's a lot of there's a lot of whack-a-mole in DCS. You fix one thing, you can break something else. So yeah, and then that's just within your module. Then you got to remember, like, every time there's a DCS update, that could break something in your module. If you're a third party, even if you did nothing wrong. So yeah, he explained this kind of walk, crawl, then walk, then run. So it's a, to me at least, it's a reassuring sign of life, because I was a bit worried about
I was very
older
happy to see this.
Kiowa. Yeah, exactly. Same here. So hopefully we'll see some updates to it. I said this a while back. I said to people, don't expect anything for at least a year, which is not much more than just bug fixes and just keeping the thing going. That all said, the Kiowa when it released, it was in fantastic condition.
It was
Yeah.
basically already perfect. So, like, it's
Yeah.
not one of those modules where, immediately after release, you actually need the developer to do kind of really, really big bits of work. Yeah, if they are just bug fixing it, that's fine, actually, I think, because there's nothing major. I can't even think of anything that's like missing or broken.
No.
Like, it's basically all there.
Yeah, it's all there. Yeah, and I think the only thing, and this was never in the original commitment anyway, was they wanted to flesh out the AI pilot, and they wanted to obviously then focus on an AI CPG. But it's very flyable without, and everything still works what they delivered. And if I remember rightly, that was never part of the original like pledge, so to speak, of what they were going to do. They kind of threw that in kind of as a later stage. So that's kind of a bonus. So yeah, no, it's really good to see that. I was a bit worried, I won't lie, about the old Kiowa and Polychop in general. And like you said, it's like, again, it's not like an F15 situation where there's loads more to come, and don't know where that's going.
Yeah, we
yeah.
we don't speak of the F15.
We don't speak of any of that stuff. Yeah, it's been covered to death, isn't it? One of the things that Napalm just brought up there, which is actually quite cool, he said, is the Marianas World War II sandbox of a Vietnam map. I think it actually could be a really good fill-in for, especially if you're doing helicopter stuff. I think obviously for fixed wing it becomes a bit of an issue because they're all kind of muddy, kind of dirt airfields. But if you're doing helicopter stuff, it's probably quite a good fill-in, at least for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Nice. And yet then we've got a bunch of smaller fixies for the F-86. We're still getting fixies for the Sabre. That's fantastic. L-39 sees a small fix. Black Shark 3. Airgis sees Mirage F1 and C101 get a bunch of fixies. As is there ever a time when we don't see Airgis actually making fixies to the Mirage and the C101? Those guys just keep on going.
I can't remember the last time I saw a patch notes where they didn't have at least like 10, 15 things per aircraft. So
yes,
dude, they put the work in. Like I tell you what, you cannot doubt their commitment and their work. They'd be I keep saying this before, they'd be my number one pick for like a Jaguar. They would do it so well. If someone's going to do a Jaguar, I'd love Airgis to do it, because they'd absolutely slap it out. It would be rad.
Please Airgis.
Yeah.
Because
please do it, dudes.
I agree, because that's the great thing. The Mirage F1 is already probably the closest aircraft we have in game to a Jaguar. And so they obviously have the skills necessary to do this. Anyway, we're in dreamland right now, but we're
back in
the Jeff gets some updates, which is always nice to see. I'm a big fan of the Jeff. And then, of course, the updates to the Kola map that were already talked about. And right at the bottom here, we've got the F4U-1D by magnitude 3 known issues. So this is worth being aware of if you're buying that module.
Yeah.
So some small bits and bobs. Doesn't sound like anything particularly bad, but yeah, we've got some small bits and bobs here.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Mm.
So that was the changelog. That's everything that we got in the most recent update yesterday. Spells, love the Mirage F1 to bits. Yes, it's a good aircraft. Wasn't that long ago that I did my tutorial series on it, so I got to delve quite deep into it, and I rather enjoyed that. But we're now all about the A10. That's my current ride, as it were. And that's basically everything that we have for this week. We just had the 2 newsletters, although they were pretty jam-packed with tasty morsels for us to enjoy. Do you think we've missed anything, John?
No, I don't think so at the moment. I did find it interesting that there was a mention of the F100. So is it Granelli who make the F100D,
Yes.
the Super Sabre?
Uh-huh.
So apparently, I think it was somewhere in one of the mentions or something. So ED are going to be at like an expo, and apparently I think Granelli are going to be there as well. They go for the Flight Sim Expo, so they're going to be there. So I would say that there you go. We're excited to share that Granelli Designs will be at the show with their own booth, showcasing the highly anticipated DCS F100D. So if they're showcasing that, that tells me that they're pretty far on that.
I think they've begun the hype train. I think because just a few days ago, Enigma released a YouTube video where he was interviewing. I think it was the lead developer. Or something like that. So he and the video was called something like "The Road to Release." So I think they are getting pretty far along.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at their progress tracker. So they've got 68% on the art progress, 88% on the code, and 78% in general on the F100D. So that's pretty. It sounds like we might start seeing some in-game footage maybe, and some near final renders or screenshots of some bits and pieces. So that's going to be a really cool jet. I watch a bit of people do. I'm not a big airquake person. I usually get my cheeks clapped when it comes to that kind of stuff. But obviously you got things like was it the used to be Enigmas, obviously now Heat Blur, Cold War, and then you've obviously got things like Contention. But watching the Cold War stuff and the different, because the weird thing with the Cold War, isn't it? You've got everything from like the Sabre and the MiG-15 up to like technically Cold War's even things like even the you could put the F-16 in there in an argument, and as an argument for the Tomcat. So it's kind of a wide range, but watching people fly around, especially when you've got things like Mirage F1 and you've got like things like the MiG-19 and some and even earlier jets. I think the F100 would actually be kind of cool jet, because I think it's got like early to mid sidewinders, and
yes.
It was actually, if I remember rightly, it wasn't a slouch. Obviously, if he's carrying a ton of bombs, it couldn't. But if it was set up right, it wasn't a slouch in various regimes. So yeah, I think that would be a cool jet to come into the game, and there's a bunch of really cool things there's so much cool history around that aircraft. And that was, if I remember rightly, that was the first, or one of the first Wild Weasel platforms. So I don't know if we're getting that, at least in the in the game, because I think it was the 2-seater. But it's got this real pedigree, the Super Sabre. So yeah, it's cool. I think there's some cool stuff coming to DCS. And the one thing, do you know what I was going to mention to you earlier? What happened to the AI Heat Blur A6? They promised that thing like about a year ago.
Yes.
What happened to that?
It has been mentioned like kind of in passing not that long ago.
Yeah.
There was like one of the updates that they did in the newsletter. They kind of like, oh, we're still working on it, and that's pretty much it. So we know it's in the works, but we don't know when it's coming.
Yeah. No hate, by the way. It's not me going, where is it? Why have we not got it yet? It's more of a like, oh, what happened to that? Because it's really interesting, because they were kind of saying, yeah, it would. The A6 in general is a cool jet as well. And I remember they were saying, look, it's going to be AI at first, And another thing that'd be cool is we get the KA6, isn't it, as well? So you got the one that can buddy tank and stuff. And because I always think like the more we can get of like the classic Grumman Air Wing and more like stuff like that would be really, really cool. And the A6 is just a really cool jet in general. I mean, everyone watched Flight of the Intruder, Willem Dafoe, and all that.
Yes.
But great film. But yeah, just to see some stuff like that would be cool. But yeah, I just remember it sounded like they were gearing up for it about a year ago, wasn't it? They were like, yeah, it's on its way.
Mhm.
It's gone dead quiet. So yeah,
I'm
I don't know what
I'm
happened to
sure
it.
they're busy enough with like 2 more variants of the F-14 to come, the Eurofighter Typhoon, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
A6. I think they still have some work to do on the carrier that they have as well,
Forrestal.
the
Yeah,
Forrestal.
yeah, yeah.
But there's all manner of stuff that Heatblur are doing. Those guys are busy
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, I don't know how this would work, because I know Heatblur has shared technology with
with ED.
ED, haven't they? With especially with the things like PRF tones, or is it yeah,
That's
pulverization,
correct. Yeah.
all that. I wouldn't be surprised if in kind ED might go, you know what, we can give you some of the technology to get the flight crew on the Forrestal or something, or a version of it or something like that, where you can get, because obviously the elevators would be in different places, and you know, you have the deck layout, but maybe there's some sort of cool thing to do with that for the Forrestal. And then I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, a year's a long time, in
Mm.
especially in development. So it could be that they said, you know what, rather than us just
You know
release this
what?
AI, you know what, mate? They might have said, you know what, rather than release an AI, why don't we just, you know, get it all out in one go or something like that? I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if that's what happened. So
Could be the
yeah,
case. Oh
yeah.
yeah,
I
of
just
course.
wondered what happened to
Continuing
it.
development of the F4 as well. I missed an element that they're
Mm.
still working on.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
yeah.
We got
So
an F4 variant to come as well, haven't we? Because there's two. They were going to do two F4Es, isn't there? There's like a later version, a few
yes,
extra. You know, I think it's got CCRP or CCIP, and it's got like
it
a
does.
little
I forget what
camera
that
on it.
version is called now, but yeah, there's an
DMAS,
DMAS.
DMAS.
Yes, yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
There's an
yeah.
upgraded version that we're supposed to get,
Mm.
and then there is the marine variant that they want to do later, but I believe that's a separate module.
Yeah, they've said they're gonna, if they do another one, they're gonna do like a navalized. I think they said it's probably going to be a different separate module, which makes
Yeah,
sense. It's the cockpit's different. The handling is different. The radar's different. Like everything's going to be super different. So
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. I actually,
Yeah.
yeah, I jumped in the F4 again recently, and it's a
Mm.
fantastic module. So much
Oh, great
fun.
module. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Heatblower are they raise the bar every time. They literally do. They're so good. I mean, we forget things like that. The inbuilt manual in the game, which was
Yes.
just like genius. You got Jester. Not all that long ago, they've added functionality, haven't they, to mod Jester?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be really
Grease
curious to see that.
pen, a grease
Yeah, the
pen
grease pen on the thing. Yeah,
on the
yeah.
canopy.
Pilot
It,
customization that they've been talking about as well. You know,
Indy Navy makes a good suggestion here. The show needs a module tracker. That's actually a
yeah.
very good idea. We should probably have a regular segment where we talk about everything that's in the works and when the last time we heard about it.
Yeah, just even if it's a spreadsheet and then I can do my magic on it and make it look, you know,
Yeah,
not a spreadsheet. Yeah, just to get a gist of like what's going on. Because there's loads. We've got, is it the Kafir? Was
yeah.
it the Kafir?
There's the
We've,
Kafir. There is in fact a tornado.
yeah, a torn. Oh, dude.
Frantic will be very, very happy and
Yeah, yeah,
will remind us multiple times it is a
yeah.
tornado.
Yeah, he'll perk up in chat in a minute. He'll hear tornado is bat signal for him. He'll just run in and go, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got the tornado. You got that. We've got the G91, haven't
yes,
we?
that's right.
We've got the obviously C-130.
Hmm.
We've got a F-35,
Yeah,
which is interesting.
which
F-15C,
yeah.
you know,
Oh yes, MiG
MiG-29,
29, which
which I think's close.
the MiG 29, like I think that's going to drop in the next like 2 or 3 months. I think that'll be
Yeah.
with us very, very shortly.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. We got the Su-25A, whatever that's going to be, whether it's going to be just a FC or a full fidelity, whatever they're doing with that. That's obviously an ED one. What else have we got? We've got
Colin Jacoby saying Starfighter when? There, yeah, we
Urges
are
are doing,
getting a
aren't they?
Starfighter. Who's making the Starfighter again?
Urges.
It was Urgis. Yeah, I
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say. That's what was in my head, but it was like, no, it can't be. But yeah, it is. They're giving us the
Oh,
Starfighter.
they'll do a great job.
Oh yeah,
Their Urges are a baller. Yeah. So you got that. I'm just actually looking through. We've got the
MiG
the
17.
Big 17. You've got Sky Raider
Oh yes,
by
that
Crosstail. Yep.
that had a fantastic trailer, and then we didn't really hear much about it after that.
There was something very recently. There was the guy who did what they called the guys who did they do a mod Echo 19.
Echo 19.
They got the Echo 19 are doing for the developers. They basically got a Sky Raider, pulled it out, and were doing all sorts of things. Even from people flicking switches and moving. There's a video somewhere online you can watch.
Nice. I need to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's ASMR basically, Sky Raider ASMR. So he sat there with all his microphones, and they even putting things like microphones in various like containers and stuff like that to kind of get the sense of like what it would sound like inside of the cockpit and all that kind of thing. So yeah,
Okay.
that's really cool. What else have we got? Obviously Eurofighter. That's going to be a beast when we get that. Bo 105.
Eurofighter with Meteor when? Yeah,
dude.
BO-105, the module that's been in development for about as long as DCS World has existed.
yeah. I'm sure it'd be a great helicopter. I don't want to shit on that. I'm sure it's just been. I just keep seeing like I don't think I've seen anything in game for the Bo 105.
No.
I think I've just seen. He seems very knowledgeable, but the developer being like, we've simulated this version of a compressor which is in the air conditioner.
Yeah.
It's absolutely accurate. Even the wiring is correct. And it's like, I'm sure, but when are we going to see something? So there's that. Yeah, and then I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, we lost the PC9, didn't we? And we lost was it Czech 6 and Australia, that went away. And then isn't there been hints? So we got the A7.
Yes,
the Corsair
I'd forgotten
2.
about that one. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that as well. We got the A7, and that's carrying on from what I know. And then the other thing, I guess, would be there's been hints, isn't there, of a Su-17 or Su-22 fitter. I can't remember which one it was, wasn't there? There was also, was I right in thinking there was a F8 Crusader? One of them was looking at. Am I right in that way?
I don't even know.
Magnitude 3 or something? There was like a couple of screenshots of an F8 Crusader.
Yeah,
we'll have to do a deep dive. I'll tell you what we'll do.
We have to prepare for this and actually find out, because Indy Navy is bringing up the community mods now as well, and of course there's even more community mods that are coming and so on. So yeah, it's something that we'll come back to on.
Yeah.
Morlos, welcome to the stream. So yeah, everybody, I'm going to do my my little reminder for everybody to subscribe, like, and comment at this point. It's really, really important to the channel, to the algorithm. It helps me find new viewers. We have to feed the algorithm. It's the only thing that we're here for these days. And and if you want to further support the channel, you have the option of joining Deep Hack's ground crew by clicking the join button below for a small monthly fee. I've got a mosquito. I missed it. This is good content. Anyway, yes, you can join Deepak's ground crew. I really appreciate those of you who've already done so, and I'll give you a shout out a little bit later in the video. But yes, in the meantime, absolutely subscribe, like, and comment. And yeah, I think that's all the news that we have for this week. So as I often do, I'm going to jump on and give a big shout out to the VAF, or the Virtual Air Force. I'm going to lose John for a moment while I do that, sadly. But yes, the VAF, or the Virtual Air Force, is a virtual online squadron originally started by myself and Dot Chuckles many moons ago. We generally fly on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at around about 8 p.m. UK time, and we have squadrons for the Harrier, the F-16, and the F-18. We're always looking for more pilots, so go ahead and click on the Discord link in the show notes below if you want to join. But we're also always looking for ATC, mission makers, scripters, livery makers, and so on. Everybody is very, very welcome on our Discord, whether you fly with us or not. So that's VAF, the Virtual Air Force. And yeah, we're based in EU time zones, so keep that in mind. So, there we go. And I'll bring John back. Hey, that was the Virtual Air Force. Cool. Nom Doms HD subbed just for Deep's accent. Well, it's mine, and you can't have it.
Dom Nom is indeed a Nom Dom.
Oh dear, oh dear. Okay,
amazing, absolutely amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Pink Floyd. That was actually a very small K50. Yeah, I apologize for being distracted by the mosquito, but I'm actually allergic to them, and so whenever and we have them in Sweden, unfortunately. So whenever I see one, I panic a little bit. I want to kill this bastard before he gets me. If I
I'm just
get
picturing
bitten,
in your head under attack.
yeah.
Check
If,
run.
if I got, this is me totally digressing now, but it was a few years back. I got like a couple of bites on my arm, and my whole forearm swelled up and kind of looked like a half deflated balloon, and it was horrendous. So I don't want to be bitten by those things.
Did you look like Quagmire after you discovered the internet?
A little bit, yes. Spooky ghost. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically everything that we have for this episode. John, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your Twitch channel and what's happening just now. People go to twitch.tv/John Bloor and click the appropriate button.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to be getting back onto some streaming very, very soon. I've had a little bit of a break. I've had some stuff going on in my personal life. Nothing major, don't worry. It makes it sound more serious than it is. But it's just basically a case of streaming definitely taking a bit of a backseat. That said, also though, there's a really cool project that hopefully I can kind of share with people once some things get sorted. It's going to be something I'm going to be doing for my illustration side of stuff on DCS on Twitch. And once I can kind of talk about that more, I will. It's going to be really cool. And it's a little bit of a pushing out of the boat. So it's going to be. I think also it's going to be. I'm giving all these kind of very mysterious, isn't it? All these hints of mystery, but it's going to be something that is very much compatible with DCS and what you guys enjoy, but it's a little bit different. So yeah, it's going to be cool, and it's going to be what's the word for it? Complemented by some gameplay stream stuff as well. So that's all I can say for now. But once I know more, I can kind of share it. But yeah, I'm going to be getting back onto some streaming. I don't know how regular it'll be initially, but I will try. I may even get one in tomorrow if I can. Jump back into DCS, fire it all up. I'm sure it will crash just as I finish cold starting. DCS has run into an error. I'm gonna be loving the DCS experience all over again. But yeah, I'll be back in on it, and I'll hopefully see some of you guys over on Twitch real soon. So yeah, that's what's going on my side.
Fantastic. And yes, I've been Deepak. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment. Big shout out to Deepak's ground crew. Thank you all very, very much for your support. Thank you very much, Channel Right, JR Walker, Mr. Yeti, SeanAm81, John Bloor, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Whiskey Dale, Stuart McLean, Mangash, Willow Wilson, Byron Farrow, Osprey, Snooblarin, Laskin75, Interesting Story, Whoopaz, Frantic Stone, Pink Floyd, Samantha, and Alice. Thank you all very, very much for your support. And I've been Deepak. I release a new tutorial video every Saturday around about 6:30 p.m. UK time. Currently doing a series on the A10, and that's continuing. Next week I'll do some navigation stuff, and that's always followed by the DCS news, which just happens to be this thing, what you're watching right now. Thank you all very much for watching. Fly safe, and I'll see you all next time. Ta-ta!